Hello, everybody. Welcome to Mentors on Tap. Doc Sheldon here, my running mate, Steve Gangster. And we're going to talk about something that is very much in his wheelhouse because I don't do PPC. So he's going to talk to us about some stuff that's going on with Google Ads.
Yes. So some of you may have heard, hopefully all of you doing PPC have heard, but if you haven't, Google has decided that it is once again time to change what words mean. In the past, you used to have your broad match, your phrase matches, your exact matches. Then they introduced modified broad match because, just because it's a broad match doesn't mean it's actually a broad match. It could be something else. And now they have decided that exact match doesn't always really mean exact match. What they've decided to do is if you've got an exact match keyword set up, maybe a misspelling will be something they'll go ahead and show your ad for because, it's a misspelling. That's kind of exact. Or maybe there's a variation of the end of the word. Maybe you're going to go from trainer to training, where, yeah, maybe, possibly, but I can think of a whole lot of scenarios where if you're looking for training in something, you're not necessarily looking for a trainer. So there's those kinds of issues that are going to come up. And you really don't have any choice. I mean, there are ways for you to opt out of this, but it's a challenge to get to. You have to dig deep into the admin panel, and you can opt out of certain things, which I recommend highly anyway. One of the things we like to opt out of is the automated suggested ads, where they will just create ads for you and run them because their algorithm knows better than you do what your customers respond to. And so far, I've yet to have one of their automated ads outperform anything we've curated. So there's that. But the real issue we're seeing with the exact match now, and we're starting to see this more and more with certain clients, is we're starting to see new phrases enter into our search words that were never there in the past. We've got clients that we've been monitoring for years, and suddenly we're starting to get terms where they start off with the word Google, where, that we got one that says, Google, give me, and it's a website address. So we're, people who type in, they go to Google to type in, Microsoft.com. It's like, why not just type that in the address bar and go to Microsoft.com? But what's happening is mostly people on their phones will say, Google, give me Microsoft.com. Well, that's all well and good if you are Microsoft. And that's okay if you're bidding on Microsoft as a term. But if your search terms also happen to share a common name or a niche with somebody's website, your ad's going to show when somebody's actually looking for somebody else's website, which I know some people do target on their own. But if somebody is specifically looking for Microsoft.com, but then they click on your ad and you can see that it turns into a bounce and you paid $3 for that bounce, this would make me an unhappy person. The example I have for a client of mine that I showed her today was an $8 click for something that was ridiculous to begin with. It never should have generated an ad click, but it's what it did because it placed her ad above the actual website because the actual website's not bidding on their name. Or if they are, we outbid them and beat them. But so now we've got people coming to our website on an exact, which should have been an exact match, but isn't because Google changed the rules. Another example we had was we've got a client that has a school. They do training, which is why that trainer and training thing came to mind. All of a sudden, that what used to be a phrase match, or should be a phrase match that have the words training course in it with their specific niche, all of a sudden their specific niche is getting replaced with random stuff like telephone operator training course. First of all, do we still have telephone operators, and what kind of training do they get? I don't understand that one. That one just struck me as weird, and it's a $3 click, so I don't understand how that happened either. It's like, how did this?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense at all. Yeah, I could see a 12-cent click, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, if it was a 12 or 20-cent click, I wouldn't be worried about it. But we seem to be seeing these errors on very expensive clicks. When you're paying, your average cost per click is $1.50, $1.60, and all of a sudden you get an $8 click on something completely random and unrelated to what you do. That's 4 clicks you're not going to get now because your budget's just been blown on something pointless.
And with all the visibility that Google is getting from Congress and FTC and who, to me, this seems to me like they're just really walking on the hairy edge of asking for it, because this kind of treatment of customers is the sort of stuff that DREG is built around.
Yeah. Well, and it strikes me as something very specific to what our friend Terry Van Horn likes to say all the time. Google needs a little more money, so they reach out and they turn the knob. And just on the limited exposure that I've had so far with our clients, I have not seen anything good come from this. I've seen a lot of wasted budget. We are spending far more time trolling. It's become, we normally look at the search words every week anyway, just to make sure it's a quick scan, takes 2 or 3 minutes. And you do it once a week and you make sure you're clean. All of a sudden, what used to take 2 or 3 minutes can now take 20 minutes or 30 minutes, which doesn't seem like a lot. But now over the course of a month, it's 2 to 3 hours per client, where it used to be 10, 15 minutes. And this is all so that we can sit there and go, okay, now we have a whole new group of search terms that we have to be very careful about. Things that weren't an issue before, like people looking for phone numbers, was never an issue before, because people would go, I'm looking for a phone number for, whatever, for Chick-fil-A. Well, Google used to be pretty good about, here's the number for Chick-fil-A. Well, now they're placing our ads above that. And people are generally stupid, and they click the first thing on the list. They go, well, this ain't Chick-fil-A. I don't want pizza. And they go back and they scroll a little bit and go, there's Chick-fil-A. And that solves their problem for them. But now we have to build new negative keyword bundles wrapped around getting directions, because a lot of our places are service areas. They're not locations that you go to. For the people who are locations, this is a good thing, because now we're seeing more traffic for terms that we weren't generally optimizing for, because we were picking up on that in local search, map packs and stuff like that. We're starting to pick it up in PPC more, which again doesn't make any sense, because the total, when you add those two numbers together, the only thing that's happened is local search has gone down and PPC has gone up. So again, Google wins. As far as clients concerned, it's the exact same numbers, only it costs them more. So it's just, it's not right. When you have something that's called exact match, it should be an exact match. It shouldn't have any variations.
When it has been for so many years.
Yes.
I mean, this is a brand new launch. This is something that has changed dramatically in its definition after years of being a true exact match. And this wasn't announced, right? You just noticed this started happening.
Well, it was announced, but it was announced in a Google blog post somewhere, and somebody else spotted it and made a post. But and a few, it kind of got it got surfaced a little bit by a few people in the industry. But this is one of those things that should be a big squirrely pop-up when you log into your AdWords account that says, this has changed.
Yeah.
Exact no longer means exact match. Here are the types of things you should expect to see from this change. They didn't do that. They should be required to do that.
I agree.
It's not right that they can make structural changes to how their system works without being very vocal and obvious about how they made those changes. It's just not. It ain't right.
You say that you can go deep into the control panel and you can actually find a way to opt out. You can opt out of this so that they would adhere to true exact match to that level. You can opt out.
In theory, I need to go in and actually try it. I haven't done it yet. It was just something I was looking at yesterday. So I don't have a whole lot of detail on that, and maybe I can write a blog post for SNC that goes into this a little deeper for people who want to opt out of some of these automated features that Google has. It's just like some of their ad types where you have things like dynamic keyword insertion. I absolutely love, because then you can structure your ad around the keyword that might be searched, and it will automatically insert that keyword into your ad, which makes the ad even more targeted for your searchers, so that they're more likely to click on it. This is all a good thing. They're responsive ads where you write 7 or 8 headlines and 6 or 7 different descriptions and all this other crap, and you put it all in a bucket, and Google shakes the bucket and says, this one's best. I've only seen a couple of those outperform hand-curated ads. And now Google in the back end, in the admin area, they give you a score out of 1 to 100 for your ad campaigns. And if you decide to shut off a responsive ad, you're going to lose 15 or 17% right off the top of your score. So now you're an 83% AdWords campaign, and your client logs in and goes, well, why is my AdWords campaign sitting at 83%? It's like, well, because the ad they want you to run is crap. But because it's Google, a lot of clients still want you to do it. So then you have to show them why certain ads perform better. And it's just a lot more work and education than most clients want to go through. And certainly more than I want to go through on a repeat basis.
I had a conversation about a week ago with a prospect that he was looking for some technical stuff, but he was doing both organic and paid. Mm-hmm. And from what he initially described, it sounded like he had a pretty good approach the way he was doing it. He had somebody handling the PPC for him. He was doing the organic himself. And they were, bolstering the organic with the paid. And he made a comment of something he had in mind that he was going to try it. I said, I would suggest you talk to your PPC guy, because that might not be, you might be throwing money away on that. Might not be as productive as you're thinking. He says, well, I saw that Google recommended it, and I figured Google runs this program. They must know more about it than you or I. I said, no. Mm-hmm. What Google knows more about is how to make $1 billion a day on your money buying ads. I said, that's what they know. That's what they care about. They do not care about saving you money. They don't care about moving the money from your pocket to theirs. I said, so talk to a pro that knows what he's doing before you don't just go take it off of their blog. And, he's not the first guy I've heard say that. I figured Google knows. I figured Google understands it. They wouldn't misrepresent, right? No, of course not. Come on.
No. Well, I did an audit on a PPC campaign about 6 months ago, where their campaign was rolling along, handy dandy, spending a couple $100 a day. Everything was happy. Everybody was great. And then one day it went to 0 clicks. No clicks whatsoever. They could not, didn't matter what they did to their budget. It was just flatline for like 3 months. And the guy who was running their ad campaign couldn't figure it out. So they fired him because, what's the point? He's getting 0 clicks and you're not spending any of your $200 or $300 a day budget. And I popped in and took, and it's like, wait a minute, something's not right here. And I was looking through all the suggestions that Google had made, and Google had suggested that they change their ad type from a manual CPC type to something that was managed by Google with an automated cost per conversion, which is fine. And then they said, well, we don't want to spend any more than this per conversion. And that's fine. Problem is, they didn't set up any conversions. So Google had nothing.
That That's going to save them a lot of money.
It's going to save them a lot of money. And so the ads shut off because there was no conversion tracking to follow. And since they weren't getting any conversions, the automated system was spending more and more and more per click, to the point where, that what they were willing to spend per click was, I mean, it just it was ridiculous. And it took like 10 minutes to fix and undo once I found it. But, in the meantime, they lost 3 months worth of business.
Yeah.
And,
that could be enough to put a lot of businesses out of business.
Yeah, it could be. Fortunately, they have other, advertising streams, so it didn't kill them, but it certainly hurt. And now they're gun shy about spending a whole lot of money on AdWords, which I completely understand. But you just got to be super careful when even we've determined 27 new keywords that you should will get you more clicks. Yeah, and out of those 27 keywords, I've got 18 of those in my negative keyword list because those are not clicks I want, because they will never convert into a sale.
Yep.
So you have to be really diligent when you look at these suggestions from Google, because their system, while for the most part for somebody spending 10, 20 bucks a day, and it's a fire and forget, and they let the automation take care of it, it's generally not a problem. But if you're spending real money, or you're spending a couple grand a month, you got to be really careful, because not only will their automated systems send you down the wrong path because it doesn't know, even there are people who call you endlessly and say, hey, we've got some great ideas of things we could do to make your ads perform better. It's like, I guarantee you we've already done that. Look at the history. You'll see all the split testing and all the other stuff that's been done to get to where we are now. And your changes won't help. But it's in their sheet. It's in their list. They go, I got a list of 10 things, and if I can find 2 of them that you're not doing, I'm going to call you and bug the shit out of you about it.
Well, and I wonder how many of them even bother to look at your history and see what you have done in the past. No. I don't deal with them personally, but I see people all the time that are doing a lot of PPC. Some of the comments about the idiotic recommendations and arguments they've had with Google Ad Rep, unbelievable. I mean, it's like, these guys they shouldn't be sweeping the floor, much less selling ad accounts.
No, they're
some of them. I'm sure not all of them, but a lot of the ones I've heard about, they're just astronomically stupid.
Yeah, we've taken to calling them Google Bubbas.
Google Bubbas.
Google Bubbas. They're the bottom end of the totem pole. They are getting paid 10, 15 bucks an hour to sit on a phone and read a script. Mm-hmm. Plain and simple. And they may have a little bit of training, they may not, but I have a rule. I will talk to 1 per year about 1 client, just in case they might know something. And so far I have, not been surprised.
So far you're 0 for 10, eh?
Yeah, pretty much. It's like, it's what it is. And, if you do this for a living on a daily basis, it's really rare that somebody's going to be able to come in sideways like that and know what they're talking about, because they don't have that day-to-day interaction with clients. I mean, we've got one client where we've intentionally hamstrung their PPC simply because they can't produce any more than what they are. So what do? It's like, well, if you increase your spending, they would go out of business because they can't manufacture it fast enough. We are already at max capacity. So if anything, we're talking about scaling it back a little bit so they've got a little buffer in capacity while they build another factory. What do you do?
Yeah, because what happens if a line goes down, or the wrong tech gets injured? Yep. You take a 30% cut on productivity, you're in trouble.
You're in a world of hurt real fast. And a lot of people don't understand that side of the equation because they're used to working in purely digital products. Digital products, that's a whole nother issue. But if you've got any kind of real world manufacturing behind you, mm-hmm. It can be a problem. It's like, no, infinite sales are not infinitely good.
I tell you, I think I've told you before, when I was a business consultant, I used to go in on a lot of turnaround jobs where an investor was picking up a company that was basically either in bankruptcy or on the brink. And most of those that this one investor who was very aggressive, he was brilliant, and he always went after some snappy ideas. I mean, this is a surefire, going to sell like pancakes if they could just get the approvals, the production, the materials sourcing, whatever. If they could work those things out, which they hadn't been able to work out for themselves. And the majority of those businesses he picked up were businesses that had a dynamite idea. They put together a dynamite team, and they grew too fast. They outgrew their ability. That was, they couldn't deliver everything that they sold, and that was what destroyed the majority of the businesses that he ended up picking up. They grew too fast.
One of my first factory jobs, yes, I did grow up working in factories, was working for Pepsi-Cola bottling. I worked the bottling plant, and I got to work on the sorting table where all the old all the glass bottles came back in from the store. We had to sit there and pull all the bottles out and put all the Mountain Dew bottles together and all the Pepsi bottles together. And talk about a job that sucked.
I'm telling you.
Because that assembly line, don't slow down. It goes. And you got to be fast and don't drop them bottles, because those bottles are money, and now you've got glass under your feet. But one of the biggest complaints they used to have at the bottling plant was whenever they would come out with a new flavor. It's like, okay, we've got this new flavor of whatever. Back then, Pepsi used to own Dr. Pepper. I don't know if they do now or not, but then they went from Dr. Pepper to Cherry Dr. Pepper. And while it sounds really good, the problem is the bottling line couldn't handle the extra load to make another flavor, because the bottling line was already running full tilt, just doing the stuff that they sold like crazy, the Pepsi, the Mountain Dew, the basics. And then, you've also got the shutdown time, the cleanup time, the switch over time to switch to something else.
Sure.
All of that added to it. And if you were going to bottle this new flavor, that means something else wasn't getting bottled. So if you ever went into the store and went, well, why are they out of my favorite kind of soda? That's usually why. Because they got stuck bottling something else that somebody up, further up the food chain decided they wanted to have, which is fine. But again, we're back to that whole marketing issue. If you can't meet production, who cares? So that's, I don't know how many PPC companies out there even ask that question, but it's one that I've asked, and I ask on a regular basis.
I've seen it often where companies are just constantly pushing for that they want to see that plus 3, 5, 6% growth per month in their sales, even though they've only got, they're running at 97% capacity. And what do you do? In fact, I had a president of a company I worked with in LA who was adamant that if he would measure his success by his lead time on deliveries. He wanted to be 20 weeks out. He wanted to sell all his new customers a 20-week lead time on orders. Now, if you can deliver in 5 months and the guy down the street can deliver in 1, what makes you think you're going to keep this guy?
Yeah. I mean, and then you get the other side of that coin. Many, many years, probably 15, 16 years ago, we used to do lead gen, a lot of lead gen for like metal buildings and stuff.
Yeah.
And we got a new client, and he was a big player in the metal buildings arena. And he's like, give me all of them. It's like, are you sure? It's like, I will buy every single lead you give me. Not a problem. A month later, he's screaming, stop sending me leads. I can't even get through the ones I've got. And it's like, well, what do you want me to do? You said you would take as many as I could get you. I got as many as I could get. You have to buy these because they don't do me any good. And, so you run into these types of issues where the conversation is not being held between the provider like us and the producer or the business. It's like, if everything went fabulously, how much growth can you sustain? Is this a question anybody's ever asked? If you're in a service business, how hard is it for you to hire and train more people? If you're doing, got a car wash, you can only push so many people through that car wash a day, just because it takes 8 minutes to wash a car, and you can only do 6 an hour or 7 an hour. It becomes you're limited. Everything's always limited somewhere. You just have to be able to find it and not let people like Google push you around by saying, "Oh, yeah, your exact match phrase isn't really an exact match. Let's give you more."
Yeah, that would piss me off in a hurry.
Yeah,
like immediately.
Not something I'm looking forward to. Fortunately, I'm hearing back from a lot of clients who understand that there may be some wiggle in their ROI over the next few months as we dial things back in again. Hopefully, it won't be too much wiggle, but when your ROI is only 80 or 90% to begin with, a little bit of wiggle can make a difference.
For sure.
If your ROI is at 400%, a little wiggle's not that big a deal. It's just, how do you find the balance? So I guess this means I need to write an article up for SNC.
There you go.
My list of things that's not getting done.
I know a guy over there can probably get you in the lineup.
Oh, that'd be nice. So that's where we are, folks. Watch your Google PPC. Don't let them take all your money just because they want to spend it. That's what they're good at.
All right. Well, that was an interesting one. Yet another reason to add to my ever-growing list of reasons I don't do PPC. Because I know a guy.
There you go. There you go. You know a guy.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Until we see you in the next episode. Later.